So there's a dispute of ownership between the Portuguese Navy and the municipalities, and I have the royal mark of the Prince Regent Duke Governor of the Ports of the Algarve. So I had both sides of that printed on the deed, and I was claiming the cave and the 60 by 35 metre proper around the cave as my own.
So this was a deed of entitlement, and you know, of the would-be king.
And then I rolled it up and wax sealed it and stuck it in the bottle and corked the bottle. And I also wrapped one around the outside as well.
Well, there you go. So that isn't what I found. So anyways, like I said, it got really intense. And then Lee Dawson, he says, actually, I'm with Carrie. You know, we shouldn't lie. This is not... that's what I said to Dave Mahoney. Look, you have a lot of psychics that watch this show. They will know intuitively, instantly, that you are lying. They will know. And so I think that's why they didn't let me talk on the video at all. Like, I don't know if you noticed that. I spoke 0 words in the whole thing. So anyways, so Lee Dawson stuck up for me, and I actually thanked him for that. And I grabbed I was starting to get up and go, and I was like, and I'm taking that with me, the piece of paper. Yeah. So I got home, and I started to run some stuff through my mind thinking, okay, I don't know these guys. Dave Mahoney's already told me that he's not allowed back in the United States. He admitted to that he did some illegal stuff, and he said it was with real estate. He actually said that it was his buddy that had done illegal stuff, and so by association, he got banned too. So he's hoping someday he can go back, but he can't fly into the States at all. And so anyways, I was getting a little scared.
Well, actually, what Lee Dawson told me is that Dave Mahoney was flying product from Colombia into North America, and that's why he's banned from North America. And then he said there's only one product that comes out of Colombia. When Mahoney was coming around here in 2020 for the first time, I just got a phone call, and they said, Mahoney's a heroin trafficker. So when I first saw him, which was about 30 seconds later, I took him to one side and said, Dave Mahoney, are you a heroin trafficker? And he goes like this. He looks down, kinesthetic, down to the side, and he looks back at me and he goes, no, because it was cocaine, not heroin.
Yeah, I don't know that aspect of him, but I can tell you that he really was adamant that I had to lie for him, and I wouldn't do it. And so I got home. I was friggin' scared of these guys. They're big boys, you know.
Yeah, big boys.
We have a picture, and
Lee Dawson's about 6'5", and he's a
at least 6'5".
champion fighter. You know?
Yeah, champion fighter. And I mean, my father was a champion fighter, so I grew up with that, and I know what they can do. I know how violent if they need to be, right? And so
you don't see it coming.
No, exactly. And again, I didn't know the value of the piece of paper. So anyways, I phoned my girlfriend in Canada, and who's really psychic. And I said, Cher, what do I do? You know, and she was like, oh, you are in danger. They are talking, and there is something. I would actually leave the premises for the night. And I was like, yeah, that was my feeling too. So I muscle tested. I got, yeah, definitely get out of the house, get going, and take the stuff with you. And so as I'm packing, something shifted, and you could feel the threat had totally shifted. So maybe a plan shifted or something. And so I phoned Cher up again and said, you know, what do you feel? And she said, yeah, no, we're good now. Yeah, something shifted. I was like, okay. So I locked everything up. I don't think I slept much that night. I was, you know, sleeping with one eye open, looking around, because I was in the house by myself, of course. And so anyways, next morning comes, and they're like, okay, well, let's go to the cave. And I thought, yeah, no, there's a 40-foot drop. Like, you have to go down the wall to get to the cave, but then there's another 40-foot drop that goes to the ocean, maybe even more, right? 40, 50 feet?
Yeah, it's at least 40 feet. Depends on the tide. Tide's about 4 meters, but it's
a long way down.
It's a long way down.
Yeah.
It's a death fall.
Yeah. So my first thought was, maybe that's what changed, you know, just a little, and over the edge you go. And because they knew where I lived, and they knew where everything was being stored at that time. So anyways, long story short again, I said no. Yeah, I'm not feeling very well this morning. I'm going to pass today. And Dave Mahoney was like, well, congruency. We need you to be on there because I was, yeah, sorry. You're going to have to refilm. We didn't have much footage from yesterday anyways. You didn't find anything, so go ahead. And he was like, okay. So off they
Plus,
go.
it was really hot.
It was so hot. It was like 40 degrees.
Yeah, and down in the cave proper, it was another 4 degrees, 44.
Yeah, 44.
And no wind down there.
Oh, it was a hot day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so...
Yeah, so a cave gets so hot, you actually have to write down what you're going to do in really simple step-by-steps. Like I used to write down, I'm going to the shop to buy some water and a lettuce. And I'd have to look at that by the time I got to the edge of the cave to climb up the wall, just so I remember what I was doing. That's how hot it was.
So the day goes by, they go off. I think that they're going to the cave, but it turns out that they went to the palace where Jesus had been.
Stoi. The mill room.
Right, and that's like...
Stoi que estoy, I am that I am. In Spanish. So
wow.
And it's the End Times Palace. It's known as the End Times Palace.
And Jesus is just, I am.
Yeah, of course. And that cave, which is more of an alcove.
Did I just hear you go, yeah, I taught you something there?
Well, is that what Canadians do? New Zealanders do that as well. Let's go, yeah.
That sounded like a light bulb moment, though.
So the cave I was in is actually an alcove used prior to a Heb Sed festival. So supposedly that's where Jesus had his Heb Sed festival. And then he wrote the Revelation on the other, about 13 kilometres on the other side near Alvor. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So they come back, and then Sunday comes around, and they ask me again. And Dave Mahoney phones in the morning and says, did you not come with us yesterday because you wanted to avoid us? And I said, yes. And he goes, yeah, I want to apologize for what happened on Friday. There was alcohol involved, and, I don't drink at all. They were drinking, and the 2 Daves were. And so anyways, he really apologized. He said, you can trust me, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, so I muscle test, and I think, okay, I can go with them on Sunday. So we go back to the cave, and we have to take this route to make it look, like it's a more complicated way in there because we didn't want everyone to go to the cave, right? So, we take this long route around. It was that narrow thing where you go around that edge. And
did you climb around the rock?
Oh, yeah.
I used to do that. Like just for laughs. Like there's a narrow path that leads to nowhere, and then there's this huge boulder about this big, right? And it's a rough boulder, and you hug the boulder, you hug it, and you got a 40-foot drop into the sea behind you, and you go around like this.
Exactly. You're like this on it, right? And I'm thinking,
and then you're in the cave. And you got to go like it's about, I don't know, it's about 160 degrees round. Yeah. But also on the other side of the rock, there's a narrow chute about this wide, and if you slide down that chute, you end up in the cave as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, we were doing this, and Lee was in front of me, and he grabbed my hand, and I'm thinking, you don't let go, buddy. And he had to do a little jump at the end there, right? And so
you guys did it. I didn't know you'd done that.
Yeah. So
I thought it was just mine.
No. So anyways, we do that, and we film, and in between this, we had phoned you, remember? And and so we had a couple of conversations with you, and you were telling me about, I said, so this white piece of paper we found in between sandals, and you said, that's really interesting because sandals used to be markers. That's how you claimed land.
Oh yeah, what the Jews used to do is take a shoe off and throw it on a piece of land and say, that's mine.
Right. They put it on the four corners, right? And say, that's my property.
Well, actually, they got a bit greedy, and one sandal would do.
Here you go. Okay. So, anyways, big sandal. So I thought that was really interesting that they were putting the deed of entitlement in between two sandals, which used to mark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and that's interesting for the Jews, because the Jews left to go to the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal, and this is the Algarve, which is the bottom of Portugal. So it was actually a traditional way of claiming land. Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure that my sandals I left behind, they were really, really worn, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah, they were mine. They were
really,
mine.
really?
Yeah.
Next time I'll bring them for you.
Yeah, they'll fit me. They'll fit me. About size 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, definitely. They were worn though.
Oh, totally worn. Totally worn.
I'll bring them next time. He'll be shocked. It'll be a reunion with him and his sandals.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, anyways, you told us that there was a wine bottle and it was buried at a specific spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was underneath the king and towards the K and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Dave Mahoney, being the macho guy, he was like, I know where it is, and so he's digging and he's trying everywhere. Dave Vickers is filming, getting ready. There's nothing there. And I said, I think it's under that rock. And he was like, no, it wouldn't be under the rock. And I was thinking, well, why wouldn't they use a rock as a marker? Like, hello,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I was getting a little sarcastic, I guess. And so I said it a couple more times, and finally we lifted up this big rock. It weighed a ton, which I have this rock still today, right? So how we got it up, I don't know. Anyways, so we put it aside and we start to dig, and sure enough, ting, there it is.
Yeah.
And so that's what you actually see on that video.
Yeah, I know that rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that
strange thing to say? I know that rock. Yeah. It's about this big.
Maybe a bit smaller. It's about this big now. Yeah.
Did you see the one with the channel carved out for a phone?
Oh yes, I do remember that actually. Yeah, you used to sit there with your
I used to have an iPhone 4, so instead of having it flat or vertical, I carved a bit out on a rock, so the iPhone 4 used to sit in it, so I could see if anyone rang.
So you were
not that there was much reception there, but yeah.
You were like a Fred Flintstone of the 2014, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, we
I could use it for taking photos of the
ship.
Yeah, of Walter Raleigh's Ark Raleigh imitation going past.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what it's for, really. Yeah, anyway, carry on.
Yeah. Okay, so the story does end. So Dave Mahoney is digging. What you see on the video is us finding him, and they're going, oh, get in closer, Carrie, put your hand on Lee Dawson's shoulder. It was so posed, and so anyways, we're all in there together, and I went, there's letters. What are those letters? And there were 4 little letters, like those stick-on letters, but they were...
Letraset?
Yeah, very, very small. And they had a metallic look to them. And it was RBR...
V?
S.
Yes.
Yeah.
RBRS.
Yeah, RBRS. But they were just loose. So they weren't in any particular order. And so we grabbed everything and they wrapped it up. And Greg had told them to give me the bottle of wine. So I'd be the caretaker of it with all the other stuff, which I thought was very nice. Thank you. That was good. And so anyways, we take this back and we look at it, we film it, it's incredible, felt like it was a really interesting find. So we're sitting in the backyard of my other villa, the one that the boys were staying at, and we bring Greg on a screen, computer there. And so we show him the things that were found at the cave in my first visit. And you said, well, that's really strange because you put it in a bottle. And it was like, well, who would have taken it out of the bottle and put it in between sandals deliberately, then buried it with all that wood to make sure it didn't move? Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's interesting, that.
Do you know who it was? Yeah.
You do?
You
think it's Templars?
Yeah, I think it was the Knights Templars. I think it was their association.
Well, I had the royal mark of the Knights Templars and royal mark of the close-knit bodyguard to the King of Portugal, and that was on the deed as well. So, it's not beyond them what's happened since for them to do something like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, we chatted with you and looked at all of that stuff, and then it got a little interesting. They left, and I believe it was the next day. It might have been later that day. I don't even remember. I'll have to look back at my notes. But they came back, and they were packed. They were going back to Marbella in Spain. That's where they all live, which is a whole nother story. Marbella.
It's the United Nations of Crime.
It is. It is the...
It's actually the official article, the official title for it. It's the United Nations of Crime.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah. I can show it to you.
Like all the mafioso gangs from every family ever. They all gather there, you know.
British wannabe mafiosos.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, they were heading back from Marbella, and they turned around and came back for some reason. You know, I think it was actually the next day. And so they just showed up. I was really surprised. And they said, oh, we want to see the bottle again because we realized the footage wasn't very good. I was like, okay. So I give them the bottle, and then Lee starts chatting with me, and he says, oh, just have a seat. And so he's sitting in my living room, and I'm really feeling the push to go out and see what the boys are doing. I shouldn't call them the boys, Dave and Dave, you know, what they're doing outside. But Lee is chatting with me, and finally, there was such a nudge. I said, Lee, I got to go outside. And so
he was there stopping you going outside.
Distracting them.
Yeah.
So anyways, I get out there and they are filming the bottle and they're pivoting it. None of that ever made any of the tapes, right? Meanwhile, all of the paper is falling off because they're just kind of spinning it, and so it's not the same form that it was. And so he said, Dave goes, oh yeah, we're just finished. Okay. So wrapped it up, gave it to me. I was like, okay. My gut was feeling really not good about this. So say goodbye again. I go to sleep that night. I wake up in a lucid dream. Lucid dreams for me is where I get my insights, my, psychic intuitions, right? And so I hear spirit say, there's something missing. You missed something. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I traveled out and I looked at the bottle remotely, and I thought, there's something missing with this bottle. What is it? And then I realized those 4 letters were gone. And so I asked Spirit, what did those 4 letters mean? And I do believe it was a Knights Templar, because that's what I was getting in the with my message. And they left a message for him. In those 4 letters, they were microchips. There was some kind of information in those 4. And it was Regal Bearer of Royal Secrets. And that's your title.
Yeah, well, my title is Lord Chancellor, Arch Treasurer, Guardian of the Royal Secrets.
There you go. Well, what I heard was Regal Bearer, so RB.
Yeah.
RS.
Yeah.
So,
that's spot on. Yeah. That all ties in nicely. Now, my little gripe here, not you, but my little gripe here is they got the boulders, which were about this big here, and they're wrapped in green fish netting that I got from 4 caves over, and you cut off with a little bread knife, and wrapped the two boulders about this big in this green netting, and got a stick and stuck it between it, and I was using it for weights. Probably used once, twice, or 3 times. And they showed me that when they got back, but they never put it in the video. And it turns out that those 2 boulders and the stick are right on the bottom right-hand side of the Rosicrucian cosmography, which was done by Walter Raleigh, who also lived in the same cave that we're talking about. He stayed there for 14 hours. And that was back in about the 22nd of July, 1596, 22nd, 24th of July.
So I don't think you're going to be able to see it there. Yeah, it's a little tough. It's a stick with green netting. So it had that netting on both sides.
So that's in the bottom right-hand side of the Rosicrucian cosmography, which was done in 1618. And when I was growing up, I lived at 16 North Grove Ave, and the pathway to the school next to it was actually number 18. And the house next door was number 20. So I actually lived at 1618, and 1618 is right across the Rosicrucian cosmography. And it's got my 2 weights in the bottom right-hand corner with Walter Raleigh standing there with the stick next to him. He was in the same cave. And then the lion formation is in that cave in the Rosicrucian cosmography. The drawing of the cave is in the Rosicrucian cosmography. And Walter Raleigh's ship, the Ark Raleigh, which became the Ark Royal because Queen Elizabeth I stole his ship off him to settle some debts, supposedly. But really it was a tiff between auntie and nephew. And so that ship was going past twice a day, sometimes 4 times a day, as a tourist ship, and directly over the lion-shaped rock, which is in front of the cave and in the Rosicrucian cosmography.
So
Yeah.
the other thing to add to that is the very first time that I went to find the cave, I was with the military guy and my former, and we looked up and there was that rock, and sure enough, the ship came by. We scrambled to get our photos out, but as soon as we arrived, a bird came and it circled, I think it was 8 times above me, and it was cawing the whole time, and the military guy was trying to talk, and I was like, shh, just listen to this bird.
Yeah.
You know, and he was. Is
it a white bird? White bird?
Yeah.
No, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Yep. Okay, I can address that.
Okay.
One guy went. What's his name? Borgia. One guy who was a Borgia, and he's living nearby, about 11 kilometres away in Silves, and he went to Amsterdam to find the old parchments which related to the cave and Jesus, who held the title Christ, being in that area, and the writing of Revelation and the Book of Prophecies, etc. And he found something which was then passed on to me. He got killed soon afterwards, or he died soon after, at a young age, about 42. And it said, the cave is where the white birds talk. Right? And when I was there, the white birds were circling, and they were talking in 1970s phrases, if you know what I mean.
No.
You know, well, when in the 1970s, you had different sayings. I'll give you one that's a bit wrong, but it should be right, mate. You know, she'll be right, mate.
Yeah.
Keep your head on.
Okay.
Right. Just stuff like that. But the bird noises were words. You could hear it. Just you could just hear it. And the birds around that area were doing that. So you've heard those birds as well, and making quite audible that they would be around there. Yeah. I've also had bats there. Yeah. So I was sleeping in the cave for about, 10 days. And then these 2 black bats came around the corner. They were about this wide. And they came around and they go, wow, like this in front of me, with the wings spread. Really scary, man. I was really scared. And then there was another time when this fishing trawler came in really close. It was white and it had red lights on it. And then this white bat, which was about wingspan, quite big, and it had red dots under its wings, just absolutely Templar, and absolutely like the video camera, yeah. And it came up, and it was huge, right? And then it flew into a slot about that wide above the cave, like in the cave, but on the edge of it. So the cave comes out and goes around there, so it's in there, just flew straight into it.
I've never seen a white bat.
And I looked it up, and there is a white bat with red dots under its wings. So, but those are Templar colours.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so that's kind of interesting. So the ancient manuscript from about 100 AD, describing the areas where the white birds talk, and then having the Templar bat there and the Templar boat there, and Portugal being founded as a Templar nation, and me having the royal mark of the Templars, which I was actually given on the 10th of April 2014. So it all fits, So I was actually given that royal mark, and then I moved into the cave 6 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go to part 2, because we'll give people a little rest.
Okay.
Go into.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So this is the view. This is the Dismere, and it is a 1 to 100 scale of the Sea of Galilee, and over there is the Distili, and we're on the walkway here. I should have brought scissors to get rid of all the stuff, but if I do this, if I just take that out there, okay, we're on this walkway here. This is called a mulberry, and the mulberry was designed by Vice Admiral Sir John Hughes Hallett in 1942. Winston Churchill, Queen Elizabeth II's father, biological father, he tried to take credit for it, and he's not getting it. It was Vice Admiral Sir John Hughes Hallett. So There it is. Yeah.
So how is John Hughes Hallett related to you?
Well, what it says is that there will be no one called John in his family, but his name is John Hughes Hallett. And around 1770s, in the 1770s, Hughes Hallett became an official surname by royal decree with no hyphen. So it's one of the few double-barrel surnames with no hyphen in it. Hughes Hallett, John Hughes Hallett. People on the water, John the Baptist walking on the water, all that.
Birds.
And there's a bunch of birds there.
Yeah.
Hey. And
So when I was leaving today, the birds greeted me this morning as I was leaving.
Really?
Yeah, and it was mainly ravens, and there were some sparrows. I mean, they don't normally.
Oh, ravens,
fly together,
ravens.
but yeah, I have a lot of ravens.
The ravens marks Sangreal. Yeah, so, okay, we're going to have a quick break.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so that's it. Go ahead and to our Patreon account, and we're looking so forward to having lots and lots of people that we're going to be able to converse with and perhaps meet in person at some of our sacred sites.